Greetings, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to another exciting week when I'm coining Jump in June 2018. So far this year, it has been nothing but spiritual work, climbing a ladder out of the story you were born to onto the story you're born to live. And Sensei says this week, with a quantum new moon on Wednesday, things are going to jump. From my smartphone to yours, keep streaming for your weekly Namaste Today. Welcome to Namaste Today, a metro spiritual way to set up a life of play. I'm your host and the Sensei to Serious Joy, Christopher Witecki. Welcome back, dear friend. Namaste. Well, I don't know if you're new to Namaste Today, but this year, 2018, it's been a rough year. We humans are being forced to grow up and turn away from old conventions of thinking. And clearly you can see that in the politics and what's going on in the world, but it has been majorly happening in the inner world. And up until this week, in my opinion, everything the universe has played has told us to grow up, to let go of the old, to get stronger, to do the master path. It's kind of like we're in spiritual boot camp. But this week, I think we break through. We have a quantum new moon on Wednesday. And this quantum new moon, in my opinion, promises to bring those ready for mastery onto the master path. So in this week's show, I'm going to talk about in the Soul Collective all the different planets going on, how we have a new grand trine in water, and the details around Love Fest Day and the quantum new moon. Then later in our tea time, I'm going to dive deep for all 12 signs and your risings about what the quantum moon means for you. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Monday, June 11th to Friday, June 15th, 2018. Looking at your 5-day moodcast. Looking at the week ahead, it's going to be very passionate, and the passion starts as soon as Monday. On Monday, it's cloudy, overcast, with a good chance of moodiness. Step 20 rules the day, and a moon in Taurus makes things a little serious. On Tuesday, it's sunny and learning. Step 21 when it starts to get fun, and the moon in Gemini is the countdown to a new moon. On Wednesday, it's cloudy, overcast, and quantum. A new moon at step 22 Gemini addresses the day and shifts your dimension toward play. On Thursday, it's sunny and clear. Step 23, the Grandmaster step of Gemini, rules the day, and then the moon swings into Cancer to complement. And then on Friday, it's sunny and probably calm. Step 24 rules the day. You're ready to open and receive, and a grand trine in water brings you to the next emotional level. Looking at the week ahead, it seems that the universe has prepared us to go to a new emotional level. I'm going to talk about what the planets are saying and how it involves you. Taking a sneak peek at this upcoming week, this week the Soul Collective becomes passionate about ideas. Now to kind of catch you up on the spiritual timeline, as I mentioned in the open, 2018, my goddess, okay, it has been a difficult year of learning. We have been sort of pushed to get out of the old and onto the new. We truly are at the dawn of a new era. And you can see that with technology and politics and lots of things in the outer world, but it's also true in the inner world. And so far, speaking to clients, doing personal one-on-one readings, speaking to people at appearances, everyone is telling me the same thing. That the karma they were born to, the hardship they were born to, whatever that struggle was, whatever that pattern was, that struggle is ending. It is ending once and for all. And the interesting part about it is, who knew ending the struggle would be such a struggle, right? But it has been. And I think it's because we're creatures of habit. I think that we have emotional comfort zones, and we tend to fall into, they say sometimes a person is more comfortable in a dysfunctional situation because it feels familiar. And they'd rather deal with the dysfunction that they feel instead of face the unknown and self-nurturing path necessary to get to the new cycle. Well, I think this year the universe has been really pushing us to go ahead and make that swim across the channel, for us to go ahead and move to this new way of thinking and feeling. And thank God, really, the universe only does it one step at a time, or one state of awareness at a time. So far this year, as I've said in the past, we have updated our spiritual trajectory in Pisces, where we belong, of course, in Aquarius, but there's more of that to come. We've upgraded to a new winged ego in the Aries consciousness, which means win-win instead of win-lose. Okay. We've also, in Taurus, set a new master path plan for manifesting, so we want to manifest at this major level. And that brings us here to Gemini. Now in Gemini, it's all about changing our thinking. But what's interesting about this particular season is that we've had a grand trine in water along with the Gemini transit, which means we're kind of getting 2 for 1. We are not only upgrading the way we think and our attitude, but we've also been forced to emotionally open up to mature. Now, when I say emotionally mature, I'm speaking to those comfort zones. The universe basically came into whatever shadow or whatever blankets we were hiding under or whatever thing that was, where we were dealing with the dysfunction and said, get out, get up, it's time to get up. We're going to open up the drapes here, let the sun shine in. And it goes along with this new thinking that we must not only think on a higher level, but we must feel on a higher level. So I believe so far it's been a little tough in Gemini because, the mind and emotions can be co-conspirators. You can feel bad, that leads to negative thinking. You can think negative thoughts, that leads to feel bad. And I think that's what the universe's point is. It's time to tackle both of these parts of our awareness at the same time. And last week, I think we finally got from, the red to the black in the sense that before last week, we were in a bit of an emotional deficit. We felt emotionally deprived. We felt emotionally left behind. We felt, emotionally abandoned, whatever our emotional issue was. And through the week, the universe kind of made us climb out of that emotional perspective. I believe the grand trine in water with Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune was the cause of forcing us up and out of that pit of despair. And this week, we end up having a quantum new moon, which in my opinion is not just coming out of the despair, but now setting where you truly belong. So we are up for some more emotional learning, I will say that, but at least it's not out of the gutter. From this point, it's really onto the highway. It's really onto feeling great. It's really onto unlimited emotional possibilities, and I do think it'll take us some time to get the hang of it. So in other words, it's like we're going to say we want to feel great, and then the first time, our kid brother throws spaghetti at the wall, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to get triggered and have to reconstruct and put ourselves back on the same path. So I'm not saying it'll be a complete breeze, but I do think that we're this week past that maturing point. We are on to the golden land, and we're on to some serious joy. Now, the universe has a lot of adjustments to make on our souls this year, including a Mars retrograde at the end of the month. So I don't want to paint this rosy picture that it's just going to be perfect after this week. But I really believe these are the hardest grades. This is the hardest class to take, which is emotion, basically swim team, and intellect, which is math and science. So we're going to get past our gym in math and science. Now, looking at the week ahead, one of the reasons what really is the theme of the week is how well your mind and feelings can work together. Up until now, I think we've been clearing co-conspiracies, we've been clearing co-triggers. Your mind is negative, then your emotions slip, then your mind goes negative. We've been kind of clearing relationship issues between thoughts and feelings that hold us back or keep us in despair. This week, we're kind of exploring the potential for teamwork. Okay, so not only not dysfunctional, not only not hurting each other, but working together, having the mind support our feelings and having our feelings support our thoughts. So deliberately, consciously pointing both of these states of awareness toward a common goal. And I will kind of underscore that goal is a daily goal, not a goal for tomorrow. So each day you live, having a common goal between your thoughts and feelings. And I believe the quantum new moon on Wednesday is the moment when I think it all synergizes and comes together, where you suddenly can make friends with your thoughts and your feelings on the inside. And this is, although it sounds simple, this is huge, okay? I think the reason why humans fight on the outer world is because they're fighting in the inner world. And thoughts and feelings are two forces that usually trigger the fighting. The ego usually does too, but that's next with the retrograde. So the heart this week, represented by the sun, moves from step 20 to step 26. And right now, the heart is making changes for how we want to think. That's the Gemini energy. So this week, you're going to be ready to explore emotional, intellectual kind of connections, how well they can work together. And by the end of the week, which is after the new moon, you'll be ready to commit, which is what step 26 is. Commit probably to an attitude, okay? And I talked last week about an emotional tone. That's also coming. Now, Mercury, our ruler of thoughts, goes from Gemini into Cancer this week. So we've been purebred with our thoughts with Mercury in its own sign for the last week and a half, which has been good because we've been trying to get our mind in order to work with our feelings. Now it's really funny how they keep crisscrossing the energies, but now Mercury goes into Cancer, so now we think about our feelings instead of thinking about how we think about our feelings. Okay, so our mind goes to emotion. And what's interesting about that is by the end of the week, Mercury now moves to the place that Venus was, and we have another multi-day emotional grand trine in water. And this will begin literally Friday, Saturday. That's when it goes within orb. What does that mean? It means that after we make this quantum commitment for our thoughts and feelings to work together, we spend 10 days to 2 weeks fine-tuning exactly what that means. And in simple terms, or in layman's terms, it means us starting to think passionately, to think not just for our feeling now, but to think for our feeling tomorrow, to think for where our feelings are going. And incidentally, passion really is the power behind great manifestation. So we move from one water trine to another water trine, and this is all part of our maturing. But I believe now the mind, starting in this week, starts to get on board with working as a team member to our emotions. Now, interestingly enough, Venus has been in Cancer for some time now. Venus is the energy of what we open up to. And so the universe has been asking us to open up to greater feelings, open up to feeling better, open up to feeling these issues that we weren't willing to feel. My Venus was in my 12th house, if you know astrology, so I was opening up to all the feelings I didn't want to feel. Like, it sucked. But if you open to them and you hold space with loving presence with those feelings, they do dissipate, they do heal. And now Venus will be moving out of Cancer and into Leo at the end of the week, which means we'll be opening up to self-love. And that's really this whole year's goal, in my opinion, for all human beings. All this spiritual work we've been doing is so that we can live in serious joy. Living in serious joy means we seriously enjoy our life. We seriously enjoy living and being who we are. And this is represented, in my opinion, by the North Node in Leo, which has been in Leo since the fall of 2017. It's been pointing humankind to greater love and greater joy. All this bullshit that we've been through from the beginning of the year has been all of the conscious debris and conscious habits and conscious comfort zones that kept us from seeing our joy. So I want you to know there is a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. It is worth the work. And the good news is, once Venus moves into Leo, we start to get a glimpse of what it is that we will be aiming for and manifesting, which I think the universe will pay for with an eclipse in Leo at 18 degrees, a solar eclipse in August at 18 degrees. So we're going to be paid for this. So the point is, this is the week where we start to, first of all, moving from Monday to Wednesday, you're starting to see a vision for how your thoughts and feelings need to work together. And for me, this is played out in the moment. Like, I've realized in the moment how my thoughts and feelings really aren't on the same team. Even though I'm preaching it, as soon as the camera goes off, my mind is smarting off, my feelings are playing poo-hoo. Okay, so I have to bring them together. So I think we get that final understanding of like, okay, this is where I need to, be in touch with my feelings. This is where I need to be in touch with my thoughts. This is where you guys have to work together. And I think that kind of comes together in the quantum new moon on Wednesday. It's quantum because it's step 22. I'll talk about it more in the tea time. But I believe this new moon will be a moment where, upon your effort, you will be surprised on whatever opens up. And I'm pretty sure it's a surprise. In other words, I think on the other side of the new moon, which is Thursday and Friday, you will be surprised at how good you feel. You will be surprised at how your mind maybe is positive or on the right path. And it's kind of one of those like waiting for the anvil to drop or waiting for something to go wrong. There'll probably be a little bit of weird shell shock Thursday and Friday that things aren't falling apart, that things are working. And I think this is the new paradigm. This is the new level of consciousness. This is what we've been working our astro off for the last 30 years, since the last time Saturn was in Capricorn, telling us to take charge. What's interesting is after we come to this synergy, and that's the best way to look at step 22, it's synergy energy. It's that we find the course for our thoughts and feelings to work in synergy. Okay, like the left hand and the right hand work in synergy right now, right? They both work and they don't try to steal attention from each other. You know what I mean? Like they're a team. Once we're in that synergistic point, that's when this new grand trine in water kicks in with Mercury and also the moon in Cancer. And so from that point, we start to go, okay, well, if my soul is working in synergy, well, there's a lot to play around with here. There's a lot to discover. There's a lot of possibilities. Gosh, never had a day where my inside wasn't fighting with my inside. It's a whole new world. And indeed, it is a whole new world. Now, the cool thing is God Universe gives a wonderful cherry on top at the end of this week, which is on Saturday. Saturday is Love Fest Day, the most powerful day of the week for you to feel love, day of the month, to feel love and to exchange love. And this Love Fest Day will actually be with Venus in Leo. So this is a super love fest. A super love fest in the sense that you will really open up to love like you do in every love fest, but your heart will truly blossom. And I think on Saturday, with step 25 ruling, which means spirit is also ruling at the same time, I think on this Love Fest on Saturday, you're going to see the potential of what's possible now that your thoughts and feelings are working in synergy energy. So you could say Saturday is kind of when you arrive at the Willy Wonka chocolate factory and you realize, oh my goddess, this is a whole new world to explore and eat, right? And enjoy. And I think it sets an impression and sets a real mark for where we want to go. In fact, whatever you experience in this upcoming weekend, I believe it's going to be a big piece of what the Mars retrograde is about. Because from this weekend onward, we're going to be having some second guesses about what our ego has been chasing after. And I think a lot of what our ego has been chasing after have been things to compensate for the fact that our thoughts and feelings and spirituality weren't working in synergy. So our ego is pushing for things really for these to be in synergy. Once your inside is in integrity, I think you want new things. So, as I like to say, make your plans, but plan to change your plans because we are changing at a rapid rate. Now, with that said, I think it's worth a talk to go a little deeper in this quantum new moon. I want to talk about it for all 12 signs. Go steep yourself some tea. Let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. This week's tea time topic is a quantum new moon. And you may ask, what's quantum mean, Sensei? Well, quantum has to do with that magical step of 22. And this all goes to my own personal research that I've done over the last, I think, 22 years. I'll have to look that up, but that would be pretty incredible. But I've been looking at the degrees in astrology and how they are tied to states of awareness. And in all my studies, I have noticed that 22 is a very dynamic step. You could say it's a shamanic step. Anyone who has their sun at step 22 has the capability within them of changing how people feel about a particular topic. Seriously. And so 22 ends up being a very powerful degree or step number. And if we have a major astrological event, such as a new moon or an eclipse at 22, it means that things will dimensionally shift. That people from the start to the end will not feel, and that's what's important, feel like the same person. Now you may ask, how does this work? Well, 22, first of all, is a very mystical number if you don't know. One of the examples I like to use is the fact that the Kabbalah has 22 pathways, spiritual pathways in the tree of life, if you're familiar with ancient Jewish mysticism. Or if you're a scientist, isn't it interesting that the human chromosome has 22 identical chromosomes between men and women? It's only the 23rd that distinguishes your gender. The other 22 are identical. So we see 22 in kind of spiritual mysticism through time. But what I have uncovered with the 11 steps of serious joy is the power of 22 is actually a person's feelings changing about something. So to give you kind of an example, let's say in the workplace, okay, you have workplace discrimination. And let's say you have one person who doesn't feel discrimination is a big deal. Probably a man, okay? But let's say we have I feel, his feelings are he doesn't care, he doesn't really think it's an issue, he thinks it's just people complaining or people who are lazy. His feeling is people who don't get promoted because they don't deserve it. Then along comes his friend from across the office, let's say a woman, and let's say she doesn't get the promotion, and he realizes, oh my gosh, she didn't get the promotion because she's a woman. Now, normally he wouldn't give a shift, but because he's friends with her, he feels empathy for her sad feelings too. His feelings mix with her feelings. Kind of like chocolate and peanut butter in Reese's Pieces cups and peanut butter cups, right? Like they come together for a whole new flavor. And that's what the power of 22 is. He is changed because he emotionally identifies with the other two. And what I have found in my own personal spiritual research is people can be very determined with their ego and very stubborn. People can be very closed-minded with their mind, but their feelings is where things change. You see this a lot of times in like typical sitcoms on American television where there's like the dumb husband and the smart wife, right? And the dumb husband knows he's not going to tell his wife about something because she's going to feel upset about it. And he knows damn well, once she feels upset, it doesn't matter what his logic was for buying the Ferrari or what his ego wanted. With his wife feeling upset, he has to change and go return it, right? Because we are really, whether we try to or not, we are compassionate people. If you don't know, our own President Trump is a step 22 Gemini. That's the pot stirrer, 22. Very dynamic. You go in feeling one way, you come out feeling different. Now, a lot of people want to point fingers and say, oh, but this is why I felt this way, and this is why I felt that way. One thing I want to say with a Step 22 event or a Step 22 person is the process of going through the change doesn't count. The only thing that counts is how you end up feeling in the end. But in my opinion, the reason why Trump won presidency was not because of his ability to be an incredible poet, right? And this wonderful speaker. It's because the people that voted for him, they felt that he felt them. They felt an identity with him. And so even some Democrats who were Bernie supporters, they changed and voted for Trump because it felt right, because Trump's feelings about being mad about America and mad about this and mad that we're behind, all those feelings, they had those feelings too. So I'm not getting political. I'm using it only as a wonderful example of the power of Step 22 and how it can be a real pot stirrer, getting a lot of feelings all mixed up. But what happens in the end is that people's feelings get sorted out after the storm. You end up realizing that you don't feel you are a Trump supporter or you feel you are a Trump supporter. So once you go through kind of like the blender of emotion, you come out fortified and clear on your feelings. So if nothing else, it's an emotional clarifying experience. Now, with that said, that's what I think is going to happen with this new moon. I think it's going to be an incredibly emotionally clarifying experience for every citizen on the planet. Some people's clarity will be that they're not ready for prime time to go back to go and collect $200. Some people will have emotional clarity and say, I feel I am ready for the Masters. I feel I am ready to be a pro. Some people will have different transitions, like I don't feel like I'm meant to be in this marriage, or I do feel I'm meant to be in this partnership. So honestly, you can't predict. It's so interesting. Feelings can turn on a dime, as we know from the election, right? Like feelings can turn on a dime when it resonates with the human being. So the best thing you can do to prepare for this little event is be clear on your feelings. Be clear on where your feelings belong. Be clear on what you want to feel and what you seek to feel. And here's the weird thing about it. We're in Gemini. We're in Gemini. Gemini is what you think. Gemini is what you analyze. Gemini is the evidence. Gemini is the explanation. It's the logic. So we're technically updating our logic in this new moon, and our logic is being based on what? What we feel. And that, my friend, is honestly revolutionary. If I could wish for one thing for all humans to have overnight, if I could have one wish as a spiritual wizard, I would wish that they would emotionally be able to cope with their own feelings. That would be my wish. If human beings can cope with their own feelings, I think anything is possible. And I think we ignore our feelings. I think we're trained to ignore our feelings, all these other things. So the fact that in this new moon, that our mind is being programmed, which is what a new moon is, it programs the mind in Gemini. Our mind is being programmed to be mindful of where our feelings belong, and not just where our feelings belong, where our feelings belong when they're bouncing off of other feelings. That's huge. That's quantum. That's Aquarius. This, honestly, to me, is the first evidence of enlightenment coming into the human species. I don't think you'll see it in the outer world, okay? But I do think you're going to feel it in the inner world. Now, a couple of things of this new moon. Very powerful. Mercury's at step 2, Cancer, which is our thoughts are on our feelings. And step 2 is the Grand Master step of Cancer, so it's purebred. And Venus is at step 29, Cancer, on the day of the new moon. So that means that we are thinking for our feelings, and we're opening up to the full spectrum of what's emotionally possible. So whatever happens in this new moon, you are thinking it from A to Z of all the feelings. So in other words, if someone proposes to you, let's say on the new moon, with Mercury at 2 and Venus at 29, in that moment of proposal, you're probably going to have this flash of feeling the marriage, feeling the honeymoon, feeling when you're pregnant, feeling when you grow old together, feeling when you're alone in a nursing home. I don't mean to be cruel, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to emotionally be looking at the entire spectrum of everything you could possibly feel at the moment of this quantum new moon, which is awesome. It's like God GPS, God positioning service. We're being shown the full scale. On the new moon, the North Node is at step 6, Leo, and that means whatever this quantum thing is, it is to open step 6 to receiving love, Leo, from ourself, chapter 1, or the first deacon. Saturn will be at step 6, Capricorn. And that's crazy because Capricorn is the opposite of Cancer. It's really the stop gate. It's the one thing that stops emotion. So Saturn is when we cross our arms and argue with the wife. That's what Saturn is. Or we cross our arms and to the employee at work and go, well, maybe your review wasn't good enough. Okay, like where we shut down to certain feelings. Well, Saturn at 6 is just the opposite. 6 is open up, which means we are at that same moment deciding to open up, probably to feelings and a whole bunch of other things that we normally would not be willing to open up to. And Saturn is retrograde, so we're really kind of in a position to open up. And Jupiter will be at step 14, Scorpio. And the only reason why this is interesting is because 14 nets to a 5, which means it's rewriting our thoughts. And it's telling us that at the moment of the new moon, we are committing to a mindful boundary, Jupiter and Scorpio, and a mindful boundary that allows us to be operating where we truly belong. So it's kind of like we're bringing in padlocks, we're bringing in boundaries to support this whole thing. So this quantum new moon, I think, may end up changing people. You may start the week as a Republican and end as a Democrat. I'm just saying. Okay, like you may start the week as an environmentalist and end as a coal executive. You know what I mean? Like it's possible. If it's the case, I'll tell you this, it's bringing you to where you truly are. If that's the case, you have not been operating according to your truth and your authenticity, which is okay as long as you end up actually getting there. So I'm going to walk through quickly what this means for all 12 signs and where two things. One, where your new thought direction is kind of focused on, so where your thinking is. And then, strangely enough, with Mercury moving into a grand trine in water at the end of the week, I'm going to talk about where your emotional center of attitude is going to be. So where you have to be thinking for your feelings. So where you're thinking and where you're thinking for your feelings. And as always, I will put up on the side here what sign I am talking about. Aries! Aries are the purebreds, so they are literally going to be committing to a new attitude. So for Aries, this is a whole new attitude about life. This is an attitude adjustment. And because Aries sometimes learn through resistance, you may get a new attitude by bumping up against somebody and losing. Just saying, okay? So it's not that you're meant to lose. It's just Aries push, push, push sometimes, you know, like, so it could be an argument that brings you to a new attitude. It could be an argument where you're right that brings you to a new attitude. Your mind in the quantum new mood is going to leave with a new attitude. And this attitude must include a mindfulness to emotional tranquility. So Aries are developing a new attitude that thinks for emotional tranquility all the time, which is, we'll see if it happens. Okay, like, I'm still not convinced the winged eagles are out there yet. You'll have to let me know if that's the case. Any Aries, comment in our Namaste Today Club. Taurus. Taurus is now thinking for a new manifestation approach. So their mind now is coming up with a quantum new way to manifest, to get things done, to make things happen, which is what Tauruses do. They are the natural born manifestors. So your thoughts will be on a new production process, but this new production process must include the quality of mental tranquility. I know. Like, any Tauruses are like, no, he must have gotten that wrong. No. Like, Tauruses are like avid worriers, not warriors, worriers. Okay, like, and so I think for Tauruses to manifest on a higher level, they must be coming from a peaceful mind, a tranquil mind, which means no worry, and that also means that the mind has already addressed all of your emotional needs, so there's nothing to worry about. Being worryless means you put in the steps to be worry-free. Gemini! Gemini are going to have a new attitude on their character. So kind of a new approach to how they will behave, how they will respond, how they will look. Some Geminis might be getting a little bit of an image makeover. Geminis come in the office with a new hairdo or everything's shaved off on Thursday. Now for Geminis to be in this new attitude about their character, they must think tranquilly, so they must have a tranquil feeling about their confidence. There can be no emotional tremors about what you are worth. There can be no worry about money. There can be no worry about being enough. For you to launch this character, your mind must be at peace about your potential or your fertility. Cancers! Cancers are going to have a new mind about faith. So they're adopting a new attitude about having faith in life. All right? Now for them to have this faith in life, they must be at total peace with their ego. Wonk, wonk, wonk. Now you never really think about cancers being fighters. My mom's a step 18 Cancer. She's a fighter. She'll fight for her kids. She'll fight for this. She'll fight for that. I know a lot of Cancers who are totally, I'm going into bad examples here in my head. I'm editing. Like, I'm thinking all these different, but Cancers will be like totally Betty Crocker homemakers, totally caring of but you hurt their young or cross into their home uninvited or something like that, they kind of can go on a war path. Cancers can also go on a war path with themselves too. I know a lot of Cancers that walk around fighting in their head all the time. So for you to have faith, Cancer, your ego must be tranquil. It must be at peace. It must not be triggered by other things. It must not allow the world to trigger you if you want to have this faith. Leos! Leos are going to identify a new social belonging. So they're going to realize they have moved up in the world. They're going to realize they're on a new level of success in the outer world. Now for them to be able to do that, Leos must be tranquil with their own inner spirit. So for Leos to take this new world opportunity and fly, you must be fearless. You must have genuine faith. And I believe you must have a connection to the spiritual world. I really think, looking at all the planets, that the people who are connected to spirit are going to be the ones that fly high. I know it has never been that way in past lives, so again, we'll just have to have a friendly bet. We'll talk about it in heaven. But I believe the righteous will rise. You know what I mean? So for Leos, that's particularly the case. You must be karma-free and fear-free for you to be able to pull off this public promotion. Virgos! Virgos are going to have a new attitude about their future. And I think for a lot of Virgos, that attitude is going to be optimistic. Most Virgos I know have kind of dreaded the future. They were kind of cautiously optimistic, and that was the best they would do. But I think Virgos now are going to have this new high hope for the future. Yes, I do believe it's genuine. Yes, I do believe you can achieve it, Virgo. Just want to say that. But for you to achieve it, Virgo, you must be at tranquility with the public world. So if you want to be successful in your own career ambition, you have got to be totally at peace with everyone in the world, particularly totally at peace with everyone in the world not being perfect. Okay, like, I know, we'll see. Like, that's another one I'll wait till heaven to see if it happens. Like, little prejudice to Sensei. Ooh, I've never seen a Virgo be okay with it. That's not true, I have. But they bit their tongues and they were hurting inside by not speaking up. So I have to see you not complain about the world and not be hurt. But that's what it is. You must be at emotional peace with the world for you to have the career success or take your career to the master level. Libras. Libras are coming up with a new attitude about their life purpose. And you know, a lot of Libra's life purpose has always been based on somebody else. That's one of the things. But the new Libra, when I say new Libra, I need the one this generation is offering, the latest and greatest, newest model of Libra consciousness, is not here to be married only or to be a partner only. Libras have their own self-centered interests and intentions out there in the world, and they don't need anyone else, even though they tend to think they do. But Libras are going to have a new high level of belief about their purpose. Now, for you to be able to pull that off, you must be completely tranquil about how your career goes. Okay? So you must be at peace with what's happened so far in your career legacy, and you must be at peace about what may happen in the future of your career. So in other words, if you want to live your life purpose, be tranquil with how it turns out. Scorpios. Scorpios are thinking through a total life transformation. Be advised, you may not hear from your local Scorpio on Thursday. Okay, like they are making their annual cuts. And in this particular year, it's a quantum cut. They're going to cut off an entire demographic of people. They're going to cut off an entire geography of people. Not to be rude, Scorpios are just efficient. Why spend time with something that doesn't matter anymore? That's their attitude. But the point is, they're ready to make some major transformations in their life. Now, for Scorpios to pull this off, they must be at total peace or tranquility when it comes to their belief in themselves. They cannot question their belief in themselves. They cannot question whether or not they're a bad guy or a bad girl for doing it or anything like that. You have to be totally mentally believing in yourself, which means, yes, you could be out there on a limb. Yes, you could end up being a fool. And that's the whole thing. Are you in touch with yourself or not? But if you're at peace with your belief in yourself, you will pull off the transition, no problem. Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are now having new thoughts toward self-mastery. So Sagittarius have kind of been on the journey, on vacation, partying, having a good time, not necessarily thinking about how to master themselves, how to be the master of their own self, the master of their own life. They've never really set themselves up to succeed, to be honest. They've just been so good at winging it wherever they were, but they never really set up and ate their Wheaties before they tried, so to speak. So Sagittarius are going for self-mastery. Now, to get to self-mastery, Sagittarius, you must be completely tranquil about trusting yourself and trusting others. And I'm not saying that you have to be trusting people who aren't trustworthy. You have to go ahead and officially not trust those people so you can be tranquil with your trust. Tranquil with your trust means you have no possibilities of people screwing you because you got rid of those people or you put up walls. So for Sagittarius to follow the master path, they must be at total peace with their boundaries and their trust. Capricorn. Capricorns are reaching for a new lifestyle quality, a quality of life. I think a lot of Capricorns have lived to work instead of working to live. And so they have built kind of shitty lifestyles, to be honest, because they were just so climbing up the mountain every 2 seconds that they didn't realize they needed water and a place to stay. You know what I mean? So Capricorns are aiming for a new high-quality lifestyle. And for you to reach that, Capricorn, you must be at peace with yourself and peace with others. So you got to put down all of the grudges, let everything go. Most of those grudges are with yourself, not with others, okay? And you got to just be at total peace with yourself and not give a shift for you to have that quality of life go up. Aquariuses. Aquariuses are now aiming for a higher level of personal joy. I call this serious joy. So Aquariuses are being given the opportunity to take their life from whatever it is, in most Aquariuses' life, kind of mediocre. Aquariuses are kind of conservative. They usually don't sparkle things up too much. They usually don't go too far for their birthday, that sort of thing. They're kind of shrug it off. So this is a big deal for Aquariuses to be aiming for serious joy. For Aquariuses to have serious joy, they must employ daily lifestyle tranquility. So Aquariuses must feel good in their own skin. They must feel good in their work. They must feel good in their body. They must feel good in their lifestyle. They must have no conflicts at work, no conflicts at home, no conflicts in the car on the way to work. Okay? And if that happens, Aquariuses can see a day of serious joy without being a subscriber. Pisces. Pisces are aiming for new emotional security. This is another one I'm going to bet till heaven. Okay, Pisces are super sweet. They seem secure, but as soon as you get to know them, they are sweating a whole bunch of stuff, usually the small stuff, right? Pisces are very, very sensitive. So for Pisces, they're aiming for a new emotional security. That means being comfortable in the fishbowl, being comfortable in their own scales, okay, fully comfortable. Now for that to happen, Pisces must be with tranquility when it comes to their heart. And that's a big deal for Pisces because Pisces usually let the past weigh on their heart. They let guilt weigh on their heart. They let all these things weigh on their heart. And so I think because they allow things to weigh on their heart, they end up not having emotional security and tranquility. So if you can find peace of the heart, mental peace of the heart, you will be able to come to a new quantum height in how secure you feel. And by the way, once you feel secure, Pisces, then everything starts moving downstream for the story you were born to live, which is huge. And I would have loved to add that element to it, but this thing is probably already long enough. So, as you have heard, now what's the key? The key is, with what I just said, be mindful before this quantum moon of what level your mind belongs on, like what I was just saying, and be mindful of where you must be at peace. And you have until the time you watch this, till the new moon, to kind of calibrate and become consciously aware of what that tranquility looks like and what that attitude looks like. Remember, with consciousness, awareness is it all. So you don't have to do anything, you simply have to be aware by Wednesday morning. Now with that said, I think it's time for some good news. And now it's time for my weekly announcements, which I call Good News. My first piece of good news, I will be in Cleveland, Ohio this weekend. I'm going to be a guest of Centered Wellness Organization and doing a talk on the steps to remaining heart-centric. And this will be, I think, about an hour. It happens in the evening. There are still tickets available, and we're actually going to give dinner to 12 with me afterwards. It's going to be a raffle that's held, I believe, ahead of time. So I think people know ahead of time. But you can find out more. I'm super excited to meet my fellow Midwesterners. Visit centeredwellness.org. Tickets are still available, and I think I have some in-person reading slots still available too. You'll have to check their website. My second piece of good news goes to Julie Day and the Practical Mystics. Julie has come out with a 4-day mini course called Busted. And this course is really about busting all of your self-limited thinking and beliefs. So getting out of your mind games and your cray-cray. How do you actually do that? I think we all pretend that we're not cray-cray and we don't have any tools, but Julie's come up with them. I've known Julie for about 12 years now. She is one of the best actual practitioners I've ever met. Total integrity. Give her a look at and see what it's about. It's at soulmart.me. That's the hyperlink that'll take you to her course. They also have another course this week, or this month, called Thank You, Anxiety, and Stress. And this one is actually taught by Jen Deal. And this has to do with how to deal, no pun, Jen, with anxiety and stress and how to overcome that. And this is a 3-day mini course that Jen's offering. And I believe the mini course is available via video. If you want to know more about Jen's course, it's at soulmart.net. So Julie is soulmart.me, Jen is soulmart.net. Now, more good news. First of all, serious joy. I know I talk about this, but I don't think I talk about it enough. We are now almost complete with the Secrets to Manifestation series. I've recorded basically a video for every step number. And so many people have written me and said, Chris, do you have a book? Do you have a guide to the steps? I'm a step this, my Jupiter's step that. And I didn't really have the resources. Well, I'm now complete. The library is complete. It is something that comes with subscription to the service. And if you haven't tried the service, please do. People who try always tell me how surprised they are at how actually helpful it is into making their life better. Of course it is. It's like having an astrologer in your back pocket texting you 7 times a day. If it's your first time, you can try my service for $3.99. Come to SeriousJoy.com. Join the spiritual party. And I also want to bring up the Namaste Today Club. If you don't know, Namaste Today Club is a little club on Facebook where we kind of organize. I often find out a lot about my viewers from interacting with them in the club. You can post about your business, you can post about your spiritual practice, you can share information, and you can ask questions. So a lot of Facebook places are kind of sketchy. We're not. We have moderators all over the world. We don't let the sketch in. Visit namastetoday.club. And then I want to bring up some good news that some people have sent me that I wanted just to address, that we did receive your stuff, but it wasn't technically in the genre of good news. And I want to say where we would like to go with it. One goes to Carly and Charlie in Australia. Hi. Carly wrote us and told us about how, remember I did that story about free Wi-Fi across the world? Well, she's involved with some research that talks about how Wi-Fi may not be great for our health. Totally agree with you, Carly, but that's not good news. That's not good news. That's bad news. But I think it's important news. And so I invite you to perhaps come on a Friday Live when I'm back on the air. We could talk about it. We could share it. I usually like to discuss heavy topics in my Friday Live show. So thank you for letting me know. I agree Wi-Fi is not the best, but the good news was that Verizon and the big players didn't have all the power anymore. That was good news. Baby steps, baby steps. We also received some good news from Lane Lundstrom about a nonprofit to help dogs and help pets who need emergency services. Lane, I would love to share your organization, but I know nothing about it. I'm not going to share it blind. I don't know any of the details. I don't, all that sort of stuff. I have a responsibility to kind of make sure things are too legit to quit, okay? So I would also invite you onto my Friday Live show to let the viewers hear more about your organization, hear more about what your intentions are, and let their own intuition be the judge rather than me just putting up a donate button. So I'm 100% behind your cause. I just think we need a different venue to support you than this one. And then another email we got was from Omar Makram, who sent me his book. Well, actually, he sent me a link to his book, Transcending the Maya Matrix. I haven't read your book. I'm not in a place to really, I really want to be 100% integrity. I am never going to promote something that I don't know really well. Like I said, I've known Julie Day for 12 years, okay? But I would invite you to send me a copy if you want me to read it, and if I read it, I would be happy to promote it if I rang true with it, or perhaps you can come and promote your book on our Friday Live show. So, just to be very clear, with good news, we really are looking for something you have done that is good. We want to applaud you. We want to support you. We want you to tell us what you have done and what you've accomplished, and we want to support that. It's not that we have a prejudice to people who are struggling. It's that we want to build a momentum around the people who have broken through. I will support people struggling in my other venues, and I just want to put that out there. So if you have some good news to share, everyone, email us at goodnews@seriousjoy.tv. All right, friends, so grateful to be of soul service. Can't wait to be in Ohio this weekend. Can't wait to see you next week. Good luck with the quantum new moon. I'll see you on the other side. Until then, remember, I love you. Live, love, be.